Twitter, it's special. It's got a good energy to it. I was learning more on Twitter than I was in college. Like I've done a lot of like different jobs. I was an electrician. I was a delivery driver. I was a medic. But yeah, it was funny. I just was like, screw it, I'm gonna be a Twitter writer.
Taking that big risk before you have confidence or proof that you're capable of doing something, that's where I think you feel the most like an imposter. Once you build enough battle scars where you have that proof, you have that track record, that's where I really think confidence starts to compound, and then you really hit that like exponential curve in success.
Exposing yourself online or creating content when you first start, it's kind of like, oh, what are people gonna think of me? And I didn't feel like a writer, and trying to adopt that new identity can take time. The one mindset that's been very beneficial for me is like, if I don't post a piece of content every single day, my head explodes.
All right. We have Dakota Robertson here with us today. You live in Panama, but You're visiting Miami for the weekend.
Yes.
So, like, how has your weekend been? Miami's normally a pretty crazy city. So
yeah, I've definitely aged probably 10 years. I'm just going full degenerate. I went to Millennium, went to a bunch of clubs, and I feel like an old man.
That's I feel like that's the Miami experience, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You come here and then you go all out, and then you never want to come back for a few years.
Yeah, exactly. They get their hooks in you.
Amazing. Well, Dakota is great on Twitter. He's been writing for quite a while now, and we're going to dive straight into that. You have a company called Growth Ghosts that help people learn how to ghostwrite as well and make money online, which we'll also dive into. But I actually want to start off with Panama, because I know you live there now, and I think that's super interesting because most people just, they don't really move there as their, digital nomad spot. So would love to learn more in terms of like how you decided on moving there.
Yeah, so number one was taxes, because Canada has some pretty crazy taxes.
Same with the U.S.
Yeah, dude, they eat you alive. But also like how the government was being run. I'm like, my biggest value is freedom. So just seeing how they were taking away a lot of that, especially during the pandemic and all that, I just kind of saw the writing on the wall and was like, I'm kind of dip out. And the fact that you only have to spend 1 day out of the year to keep your tax residency. So it's like, oh, okay, like I can travel anywhere, get a flight, go to Miami, and it gets all good. So that was a big appeal. But yeah, man, it's a cool city. But I'm just did it mainly because I want to travel a lot. I want that, like, that freedom, and then like don't pay a crazy amount in taxes, which is nice. So.
Yeah, and I think that's when you told me that, that was crazy to hear, because most places you have to stay there the majority of the year, or more days there than not. So that's just great. How's kind of like living there, or like their digital nomad community? Yeah,
so it's not that big, at least from my experience. There's a lot of crypto dudes that go there, and then, but like it's mainly like just a lot of like locals, and I haven't broken into the entrepreneur scene there too much, but Medellin though, like I was traveling Medellin, and that had a huge entrepreneur scene. But Panama, I haven't found too many. Only one other dude.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So going back to the freedom side, not to jump into politics, but I feel like that's kind of been the big movement over the past few years in terms of why people, and I think COVID definitely progressed it in terms of, hey, because of this, people were at home, they had more time to think about like policies and stuff, and it really highlighted how different cities and countries were being run. What about it that really like was the push for you in terms of like, okay, like I gotta start traveling more and not stay in Canada?
Yeah, I think the big thing was how they were freezing people's bank accounts for protesting. And it's like, that's nuts. Even people that donated to the truckers and stuff like that, like their accounts got frozen too. It's like, wow, that's absolutely nuts. It's crazy. And then also just how like the mandates with COVID and all that stuff, really forcing people to do a lot of really crazy shit, and like trying to force people to get vaccinations and stuff like that. Like I don't care either way, like what side of the political spectrum you're on, but I think when you're like really going hard on people with the freedoms, taking stuff away, all that, it's like, okay, like this is kind of sketchy.
Yeah, I definitely think the freezing of bank accounts for for a peaceful protest. It was peaceful protest, right?
100%. Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's pretty crazy.
It's nuts. Well, they did, what was it, an emergency act or something? They evoked some emergency powers, and it was just nuts, dude. But yeah, I mean, like that's why I got into online business, like freedom to like do all this stuff. But I don't know, just seeing that is just
and that's why a lot of people are really pushing for crypto, and I actually feel like seeing all of these situations really gives the use case for crypto, right?
100%.
Like if the government's dollar or currency gets devalued, right? If they freeze your bank accounts, from an unjustified standpoint, things like that, you need to be able long term to have like financial control. So
yeah, and the fact that like the way they spend money and just how the effect it's having on people, like inflation, all that stuff. Like you work, like these people are working like 12, 14 hours a day, and then the government's like going crazy with like spending or money or whatever that. And and then their savings are getting eaten up, and just like the quality of life just deteriorates. And yeah, it's brutal, man. Like I don't know how some people are surviving, to be honest. It's like right now it's brutal.
Yeah. So when did you start writing online?
I actually got a journal entry, but it was September 20th of 2020. And at the time I was going to college. I was in my second year of college. And I was scrolling on Twitter because I'm a big crypto degen. And that's where you keep up to date with the news. So scrolling Twitter, come across this course thing or this ebook. And it's like, oh, yeah, become a Twitter, grow your Twitter account. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. I'm reading it, and it's like $40. I'm like, screw it. I'm going to take the risk and just see what it's all about. So, I started writing that day, and it was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And like, I kind of got into the scene where I started following Dan Co, like all those guys, and then kind of got indoctrinated in the scene. But yeah, I was learning more on Twitter than I was in college, and it's just like, okay, I'm gonna do this.
You were in college at the time.
Yeah. I bounced around. Like I've done a lot of like different jobs. I was an electrician. I was a delivery driver. I was a medic, server, like all this stuff. But I just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a high school English and psychology teacher because I really like teaching. But yeah, it was funny. It's like, screw it, I'm going to be a Twitter writer.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, electricians, I think, are in high demand. We've tried to hire 6 different TaskRabbits to put the electricity into our sauna in the backyard, and every single one has canceled. And we like looked for specialized electricians. So hey,
hey, if you need a sauna, electrician,
let me know.
A job posting.
Yeah, let me know. But going back, so you were in college, and then you did all these things out of college while you were practicing writing and building your audience online.
Yeah, dude. So September to December, I was in college, and I was like, well, I'm learning more on Twitter than I am in college. So, like, I don't know. Let's like fuck around, and find out. Let's like go all in on this.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate too because the big bull run happened in like December. And I had a lot of like money to fall back on if things didn't work out. So that really gave me a nice cushion to take risks. December 4th, I quit my job. I was working at Domino's at the time as a delivery driver, and I dropped out of school and just went all in. I said, screw it, I'm gonna make this work.
Wow, you dropped out.
Oh yeah. I finished the semester.
Yeah.
I was like, I just want to complete it. But yeah, dude, I was like, fuck it, like balls to the wall, like burn the bridges, all that stuff, because I was in such like a big pain point where it's like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I don't feel fulfilled. I'm not making good money right now. And my whole thing was like, okay, I got to rely on crypto to blow up. If I want to make money, it's just like puts it out of your control. So I wanted something where it was more in my control and have the freedom to do what I want and travel and all that stuff. So yeah, I just went all in. It was crazy ride.
So tell me about that, right? Because I think a lot of people who watch, these podcasts and things like that, these are the same thoughts I think a lot of people have, which is taking that big risk. And more so, it's like, it's the unknown, right? Like, that's why a lot of people don't end up taking that risk, is you create this unknown of like failure and you make it seem out to be like worse than it is. But for you, what was that like? Obviously, you got to the point where pain was so much that you made the jump. But what were those early days like in terms of building? Because I think that's, that's the kind of like the underdog or up and coming story. So
Yeah, dude, I faced a lot of challenges with writing and business. You're just learning all this new stuff, and it can be very overwhelming. But also exposing yourself online or creating content when you first start, it's kind of like, oh, what are people going to think of me, and how are they going to perceive me, all that stuff, and you just kind of get in your head. And then imposter syndrome, I've dealt with a lot of that because I didn't feel like a writer, and trying to adopt that new identity can take time and getting repetitions and get that experience. So I dealt with a lot of that, and then a lot of procrastination, like productive procrastination, like, oh, I'll just like keep taking courses and reading books and all that, and like instead of taking action with like the business side of things and trying to monetize, I should keep writing and posting content on Twitter, and I don't know, somehow I'll make money. But it wasn't until I hired my mentor Dan Coe that got the ball rolling for me with ghostwriting and actually monetizing my following and all that stuff. But dude, it's been a crazy ride. Like, yeah. I used to get super anxious on sales calls, and just the imposter syndrome stuff, and just learning all the business stuff, and lots of screw ups with business. But it taught me like many valuable lessons. But dude, it's been a journey.
Absolutely, and that stuff's normal. I feel like you're always. I would say, especially in the early days, like before you have confidence or proof that you're capable of doing something, that's where I think you feel the most like an imposter, or like that you can't do something, or maybe you don't deserve it. But I think once you build enough battle scars where you have that proof, you have that track record, that's where I really think confidence starts to compound. And then you really hit that like exponential curve in success. So
yeah, dude. And like a big thing too is, when you're starting out, you see everyone flexing the lifestyle and all that stuff, and they don't show the losses. So I think it's very important. Like people talk about like, yeah, I don't even have a CRM right now. Like, it's like people are like, it's crazy. But no, I think it's important to just talk about like the screw ups and like normalize it, because it's not always sexy.
Yes, I agree. So you dropped out, you started going full time on Twitter, took a lot of courses. Yeah. How often were you writing? Every single day? Like, what were you writing about? Because I'm sure your content back then is different than what it is now. So
yeah, dude. So when I started my account, the ebook told me to start like an add-on account, have a theme kind of to it, and all that stuff. So it's so cringe, but the first account I had was called Philosophy of Fit, and I was going to be like talking about fitness and philosophy and all this stuff and just self-improvement. Yeah. But I only grew to 750 followers in 3 months. So progress was really slow. And then I see this account just blow up, like 1,000 followers in 30 days. It was a copywriting account, and I was reading his stuff. It was very good. So I hopped on a call with him, just talking to him, and he said he was in the same position as me, starting out where he was talking about self-improvement, just really broad and general stuff. And he didn't get any traction, so he quit Twitter and then started studying copywriting. And then with this new account, he's teaching copywriting, giving actionable advice. And so I took note from him, like, okay, he's actually like providing value, and people value him because of that, and that's why he's getting so many followers. So I kind of looked at that, and I was like, okay, well, I have an interest in writing, and that was my best subject in school, and I feel like I could learn a lot, and I think it would be very beneficial. So fuck it, I'm just gonna go like study a bunch of copywriting books and apply what I'm learning, teach what I'm learning along the way. And so I created a new account in February of 2021. So started from 0 followers, just quit my job and dropped out of college. I was like, okay, let's like give it a go. And I just went fucking crazy with writing. I was writing 5 tweets a day and a bunch of threads every week. I was commenting like 20 to 50 times a day, just on other people's stuff, just to grow. And dude, I grew to 1,000 followers in like 40 days. So I was like, okay, I actually got something here. I'm gaining traction. I'm actually attracting quality people that actually want to learn copywriting and all that stuff. So that was huge, man. And I've not missed a single day with tweeting like ever since I started. Like the one mindset that's been very beneficial for me is like if I don't post a piece of content every single day, my head explodes or I die or cease to exist or whatever, because it's just a consistency thing. Like the gym, business, writing, growing on social media, just put in the volume and your skills are going to get way better. You're going to get more reps, all of that stuff, and then one day you just might explode. So I grew to 12,000 followers in 1 year, and then year 2 I grew to like 100 and something, 180,000 followers because I just got way better.
Wow. See the exponential curve.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Wow. So you're pumping out content that first year, and you got 12,000, which is great. I think for someone starting out first year, but it's nothing like, a lot of people, if they went through all that effort, they may also stop too.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's that just really shows you the power of like once you hit that skyrocket phase.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy too. Yeah, it applies to all different platforms too. So I just took my Twitter content and I applied it to Instagram, grew like crazy. Applied it to LinkedIn, grew, and then applied it to now Threads, and that's like growing like crazy. So it's nuts, dude. Just repurposing.
So really, it's before, but you mainly focused on Twitter for a while before you started posting on other platforms.
Yeah, Twitter, it's special. It's got a good energy to it. Like Instagram is kind of, I don't know, wishy-washy with the people, but Twitter is just like a bunch of solid people, like a bunch of killers in their 20s, just posting about business or doing crazy shit. It's really cool.
Yeah. So aside from volume, starting February of 2021 and being consistent and commenting, how did you iterate your content now that you focused on a new niche? How did you work on becoming better at that, writing better, coming up with better ideas? What was that process like?
Yeah, like the main thing is getting attention. So I started studying Joe Sugarman, Dan Kennedy, like all those guys, and just getting good at creating headlines and like the first like line of any piece of social media content, and also the big idea. So I just kind of looked at what people were doing and what was popping off. It's like, okay, what's the idea behind this, and how can I emulate that for my niche with writing? And so it was a lot of like studying big creators like Dan Coe, Dickie Bush, and a bunch of those guys. That really elevated my writing game, social media game, and also mentors. So hiring, I'm a huge proponent of hiring mentors and paying for coaching in whatever area you want to learn. So that was a big one too. And it wasn't just because of the knowledge people have, but because of the accountability too. Because you're going to be way more accountable if you're dropping like 5 or 10K on a coaching program thing, opposed to if you buy a $40 ebook. Yeah. You're like, oh, I got to like get my money's worth now. So 100%. That's been a huge thing for me. But yeah, and a lot of writing books too. Like those like writing tools by Roy Peter Clark, banger. Storyworthy by Matthew Dix, banger. It's been huge.
Amazing. And so how much time were you spending every single week? Like this was your entire life.
Yeah. I would sit in Starbucks cafes for 10 to 12 hours a day, pretty much every day. Like the first year. But that wasn't just for like creating content, but it was also for working on my business and writing for other people with ghostwriting, stuff like that. But yeah, nice. It was a grind.
That's normal for that first year. Even the first 2-3 years, it's a grind. So tell me how you came up with the idea of growth goes and ghostwriting.
Yeah, so I grew my audience to like 4,000 followers, and I thought I was gonna be a copywriter. And I was like, okay, I got this audience, and I've been studying copywriting and all that stuff. But then I saw a post from my friend J.K. Molina, and he was talking about ghostwriting, and he was like kind of the first big ghostwriter that really popularized it. So I saw what he was doing. I'm like, oh, that's cool. It sounds cool too. You're like, oh, I'm a ghostwriter. So there's that appeal. But I also looked at, okay, I have the skill of growing an audience because I've grown it to 4,000 followers, nothing crazy. And I enjoy creating content. So, I mean, maybe I should give this ghostwriting thing a try. So yeah, I worked with Danco, and he helped me like throw together an offer and guide me with all that stuff, and launched my offer or my ghostwriting business in November of 2021, and it was crazy, dude. Within 28 days, I hit 10K a month because the demand's just so crazy for ghostwriting, and people want to understand the power of growing a personal brand. So they don't want to. A lot of these successful people, they're really busy and they don't want to do it themselves, and they don't understand how to grow on social media. So they're just like, I want a ghostwriter. But yeah, it's been crazy. And then I did that for 2 years, and then now I'm coaching people on how to start their ghostwriting business, and that's been cool because just seeing people quit their jobs and just knowing that now they have like time, money, location freedom, it's really cool. So yeah, now I just take all the lessons and frameworks I have and just give it to people, and yeah, so now I'm running that up, and it's been cool.
Yeah, that's great. So tell me how that works. So let's say someone like me, hypothetically, right, super busy with business and everything else that's going on. You know, boom, I need to hire a ghostwriter, right? Like, walk me through like what's the process for a ghostwriter to learn someone's voice, right? Because like, how do you bridge the gap between my knowledge, my voice, what's in my head, and like someone who, you know, who might be great at writing but doesn't have that expertise?
Yeah, so very first thing you do is you schedule, it's called like a Joe Rogan call, because it's just like a podcast, like you're just chilling, talking.
Yeah.
And you hop on a call and you record it, and you just ask them a bunch of questions. Like the key is to frame it though. Like you have to be like, all right, so we're gonna have this 2 hour call, and this is gonna give us content for the entire month. And I'm gonna ask you questions, and when you answer, please just say, okay, what, like if I'm asking for like five habits I do every morning, like I'm interviewing them, can you please answer, okay, what the habit is, why it's important, and how someone can apply this in their own life. And what that does, if it kind of gives a complete thought. So you get the what, why, and the how. So if the audience reads it, they go, okay, I understand why he does that habit. I understand how I can apply this in my own life. I mean, the big thing is getting actionable content, because that's the stuff people care about. Everyone's asking, okay, what's in it for me? So you really want to make it really action focused, and ask interesting questions too. Like don't just ask, I don't know, what's your favorite food, or like stupid shit like that. So you find patterns over time of like what questions really produce the best content. And the biggest one is stories and transformations, like how someone went from fat to fit, or how someone went from broke to millionaire, stuff like that. And you can find many transformations in anyone's story. So just really like hammering home like how that person has changed. Again, like actionable threads or tweets on whatever niche they're in.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then also like, when you're talking to them, you get a sense of their mannerisms, how they talk. Okay, are they funny? Are they very serious? And you just pick out, you get to know them really well, even on a 2 hour call. And then also looking, okay, did they create content in the past, or have a newsletter, or do they do YouTube? And you take stuff from there and you can repackage it. But yeah, like you go hard on that 2 hour call, and then you go write the content, or you take that call, you transcribe it with like Otter AI or whatever, and you transcribe that call, and you have all this like written content. So you just got to kind of package it in a way that's presentable for social media and format
so now
it.
it's when you come up with the hooks for
Exactly,
it, and
yeah.
make it exciting and add your twist.
100%, dude. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And then, then you send the copy to your client just for approval, because you don't want anything going out they don't approve of. And that's where, okay, if they're like, oh, can you change this? Or I'm not a big fan of this one. You get the feedback, and you learn over time. You get better with what your client wants and all that. It's not 100% like in their voice all the time, but it does get pretty damn close.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially as someone gets to know you better and better and gets better and has more experience.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the key here is really for the ghostwriter to also be able to come up with great questions.
Yes.
As well, consistently.
100%.
You have any recommendations on how to consistently come up with great questions and ideas?
Be very interested in your client. So don't take on people that you don't find interesting. At least that's my kind of thing. Yeah. So if I have a client, I'm like, oh, this person's cool. They're living a cool life. And it's like, tell me more about that. Like, well, you're a male porn star. Like one of my clients is a male porn star. It's like, tell me more about X, Y, and Z. It's funny. Yeah, the main thing is stories and trying to get the transformational stories and really looking at their life and like, tell me, okay, what do you do in the morning? Like, what do you do in the morning? Oh, I do X, Y, and Z. Oh, why do you do that? And it might lead to a different thread. Like, oh, I do burpees in the morning because I used to be a fat kid, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. And then you just kind of go, okay, tell me more about being a fat kid. And then,
Gotcha. Yeah. So it's really getting to the stories. And as I think about it more, even not just for Twitter, but short form content on like IG, TikTok, the reels or the clips that go viral are all story based, right?
Yeah.
Or they have some sort of really good actionable advice with a strong hook.
100%, dude. Yeah, it's crazy. I love Twitter because you can repurpose it for every social media. All of my Instagram reels were just tweets that popped off, and then I just like, okay, I'm just gonna film this with my face or an animation, and they just pop off because it's already validated on Twitter, which is easy.
Yeah.
Because you get that direct feedback, and then you're like, okay, it's probably gonna work on TikTok or Instagram.
Wow. So you basically just redo like the hook or the wording maybe, so it's easier. It's more in the verbal format.
It's crazy, man. Some of these reels I got like 380,000 likes, 180,000 likes. It's just nuts, and I wouldn't know which ones to take videos of if I didn't test it on
Twitter. Your Twitter
get that feedback test. Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So that's great. Yeah. So what's kind of your goal with business now?
Basically, I just want to do cool shit and create content. That's about it. Like I my main focus is the coaching program now and helping people start their own ghostwriting business because it's very fulfilling for me. Also, like I make a lot of money doing it because of my audience. So like I'm not gonna pretend I'm some saint, but like it's very fulfilling. Make more money, and so I'm just basically focused on that. Like I just like focusing on one thing, not being in multiple different business ventures. And then I just want to keep creating content. YouTube's gonna be the next frontier. And
right now you're just Twitter and short form.
Yeah, so Twitter and Threads now. God, there's so many social media platforms. It's crazy. But yeah.
So how many hours a week right now do you spend on content?
I really need to up it. I'm probably at 12 hours a week.
2 hours a week.
Yeah.
So do you sit down in like 2 to 3 hour blocks so you can just pump it out, or what kind of routine would you recommend?
I like batching content because of context switching. Because if you're like, oh, I'm going to work for a little bit on this thing. Okay, I'm going to rotate to doing some business stuff and write some or shoot a video, blah, blah, blah. You don't allow yourself to get into flow. There's like around 20 to 40 minutes or whatever the stat is. So I like just doing like 4 hour blocks or two 2 hour blocks with like a 15-minute break in between. And just kind of listen to some Hans Zimmer Interstellar soundtrack and then go to work at a cafe and just bang out a bunch of tweets, threads, all of that stuff. And then when it comes to shooting videos, I'll write all my reel scripts and then I'll get a teleprompter and I'll just film for a few hours and just bang them all out.
Wow. Bang them out for the month.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Well, I usually do a week ahead, but ideally I do a month at a time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Nice. So you're writing content 3 times a week in 4 hour chunks.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, pretty much.
Nice.
Yeah.
And the rest of the time is just grinding on business.
Yeah. That's it. It's fun. It's fun because I don't know. It's kind of like a video game. Yeah. I used to be a big video game nerd. And
which games?
Oh, dude, I love Knights of the Old Republic, Skyrim, Fallout, Call of Duty, obviously. Dude, it was, but now I just like turn life into a video game, or how can I max this stat out and all that stuff.
I think it's also very interesting, right? Like, I mean, I never played The Sims, but we're technically playing The Sims in real life if you really think about it. Yeah. Or if you look at all these MMO RPG games, same exact thing, right? You can acquire and spend time, working on, let's take RuneScape, for example, on your skills for battle, or you can spend time like farming and like getting good at that. But whatever it is, It's you can get stronger in war, or you get better and increase your income because you, I don't know, got cooking to 99.
Yeah,
Right?
dude.
So
Yeah, it's a lot more fun too when you do it in real life. I mean, okay, I'm gonna play the hell out of Spider-Man, but yeah, I've noticed too a lot of the big business people, they used to be big into RuneScape or any of those like MMOs. It's kind of a funny pattern. A bunch of nerds
yeah.
now making money.
And I think just the digital world has really created this environment.
Yeah.
So, but I also think it's a movement, right? Like people are trying to better themselves in terms of making more money, being healthier, you know, having more peace or improving their relationships, whatever it may be. So I do think it's for the positive, this movement that's going on.
Yeah, dude. I feel like the pandemic really opened people's eyes to what the potential is because everyone's like Googling, all right, how do I make an income online now that I'm just sitting at home all day?
Exactly.
And yeah, more people are kind of waking up. Okay, that you can do X, Y, and Z, and it's pretty cool. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah. And I think there's so many ways to make money online. People just need to spend time to test what's good for them. Right? Someone might not be good at writing, but they're great on the phone and talking to people, learn sales or coding, right? They might be a great, you know, they might be have the skills to become a good coder and engineer. Okay, perfect. Get a 6-figure job. So
Dude.
it's really just acquiring skills and figuring out what you're good at.
Dude, my one buddy, he coaches people on how to get better at the game Rocket League. He makes over $100,000 a month doing that. It's nuts. Like I never knew you can coach people. What the hell? What is Rocket League? And then you can coach people in it. Like what the hell? It's nuts, man. You can make money in an infinite amount of ways.
That's crazy.
It's mind-boggling.
Wow, on video games.
Yeah, dude.
Absolutely I feel
nuts.
like back when I was playing, like I used to play in high school, League of Legends a lot, and I was like in the early days, like season 1, season 2. And that wasn't a thing yet, I don't think. I think there are a lot more people just watching streamers in terms of like who's good and learning that way. But now I've heard since gaming has become so big, you get one-on-one coaches who like will shadow you and you share Zoom and like they'll tell you what to do in game to get better.
Dude, it's nuts. We live in a crazy world. And just thinking how much crazier it's going to get with AI and all this stuff, dude, it's going to be like, holy shit, this is nuts, man. Like it's just, and then OnlyFans too. Like chicks are making 100, 200K a month with OnlyFans. Like what?
Yep.
This is nuts.
Yeah, and then next thing you know, AI girls,
dude,
will probably
straight
making
up.
a lot of OnlyFans.
Yeah, man, that's gonna be crazy. Maybe I'll start my own OnlyFans with AI.
I think the AI revolution would be big. So what are your thoughts on AI and writing?
Oh, dude, it's nuts. It's crazy. I love it. It's
really
great. Yeah.
So you think you are on the pro side for it?
Yeah. Like you can make so much more content. I don't use AI for my content, but for like ghostwriting and stuff, like my clients, dude, you can, if you get the right prompts, you can spit out so much content. And it's obviously not perfect. You got to go in and toy with it a little bit, but it's absolutely nuts what it can do. And ideally I wouldn't want AI because I think it's kind of creepy, but I'm a big adapt or die kind of person. So it's like, okay, well, if it's not going anywhere, so let's work with it. But it's actually nuts what it can spit out.
So I'm not too deep on AI, but I've just seen a lot of people talking about prompts and stuff. So basically that's what you feed into Chat GPT or whatever system you're using. And if you know how to phrase it correctly, the AI will spit out something better.
Dude, yeah. So I'll give you an example. So you got to be very specific with what you're asking it. So I will put, okay, this is my target audience, and I'll say X, Y, or Z. And I'll get very specific on the target audience. And then I'll say, this is the framework for big ideas. And I get like a summary from the book Made to Stick. Like I get ChatGPT, I'm like, summarize the main principles from it. And then I use that. I'm like, this is the framework for big ideas. And then I say, write me a thread or write me a piece of content on XYZ for this target audience using the big ideas framework, and it'll spit out some crazy stuff. And then I give it a formatting thing where, okay, I want it formatted, no hashtags, use the what, why, how framework, state what the actionable piece of advice is, state why it's important, and then state how someone could apply this, and then format it using Markdown and all this stuff. So it's just crazy, just writes threads like nuts.
Wow.
Yeah. People think AI is going to replace writers and like all this stuff, but it's, if I give a toddler a keys to a Ferrari, they're not going to know how to drive it or anything. So you have this crazy piece of tech, but if you don't know how to use it, like it's just useless. So the writers are going to become more like an orchestrator. You know, maybe they're not writing or playing the instrument, but they are directing it and they're making sure everything's harmonized on all that stuff. So that's the way I see it. I could be wrong, but I think it's a super powerful tool, and it's all going to depend on how the writer uses it. And if you're a shitty writer too, you're going to get replaced 100%. Like there's no getting around that.
Yeah.
But for the good writers, like they're going to rip. So.
Yeah. Basically it's, the top talent can become better, and then anyone who is not that good, I think, can be replaced by technology.
Yeah. So. 100%. Yeah. It's like with anything, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Even like, you could be working at, let's say, McDonald's or whatever, but you don't need a cashier anymore to take your order or anything. You just need that one manager making sure everything's good to go. And eventually, I'm sure the robots will be able to cook up, a McDouble, McChicken on its own, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and the AI is going to replace the OnlyFans girls once
Dude,
they get the deep fakes.
AI is out. AI has some enemies, man.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Nice. So what's your plan now in terms of, so you said you want to focus on growing the business more.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans on continuing to grow your social media in terms of like taking that to the next level?
Yeah, so the plan is start on YouTube, do the talking head videos and stuff like that, and start ripping that up, and then just keep being consistent with Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Threads. God, there's so much. And then get on TikTok, I guess. I don't want to, but yeah, just I think YouTube's the final boss of social media.
Yeah,
it's so powerful because people are looking up how to solve problems, and if you can position yourself in this top few videos, then you're gonna rip it up on there. And then you can also repurpose the long form videos into short form and just clip it and then post it on other social medias. But yeah, man, like the leverage you get just from growing a personal brand, like my buddy Dan Coe, he just blew up to like a 1.5 mil on Instagram, and now YouTube he's like a half or quarter mil. Wow. It's crazy, it's nuts. And then the opportunities you get from that and the people you connect with, and it's powerful. It's cool.
I think it's like what you said, being consistent with it and just getting to the point where you hit that curve.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and it's just, I tweet like 1 to 4 times a day and I just grow by a few hundred followers. So as you get that critical mass and you're cruising on that, you're on autopilot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you sharing your story and how you got into writing and Growth Ghost as well. So if anyone's interested in learning how to become a ghostwriter, hit up Dakota.
If you want to be a ghost.
If you want to be a
Gotcha.
ghost. AI.
Spooky.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Appreciate you too. This is dope setup and
yeah.
a great time.
And if you know an electrician.
Yes, sauna electricians out there.
In Miami Beach. They let us know.